Chair, you are live.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the City of Annapolis Board of Appeals regular virtual meeting for July 5th, 2022. This meeting is being broadcast on the City of Annapolis YouTube channel. My name is Bob Gallagher. I chair the board. This virtual format allows the public to observe the meeting through the video link and to submit written comments through the City of Annapolis website. Links to the YouTube channel and the comment form on the city's website and a database of case information about the cases you'll hear tonight. Those links may be found on the agenda for tonight's meeting. The people that you'll be able to see on the screen are members of the board. When a case is called, the representatives of the parties to the case will also appear on the screen. Also participating in the meeting our counsel, our recording secretary, Kim Consoli. Our technician tonight running the broadcast is Julian Jock. Also participating may be representatives of the city, including attorneys from the city Office of Law and various representatives of the Department of Planning and Zoning, including Jacqueline Rouse, our liaison officer from the Department of Planning and Zoning. Any public comments received by noon today and matters before the board this evening have been provided to the board and parties and will be made part of the record. The public may also submit comments on any case that's continued tonight to a future meeting until noon on the day of that future meeting. We ask everyone but members of the board to mute their audio. If anyone else wishes to speak during the meeting, please raise your hand and I will call on you to speak. I'd like to remind everyone that communications with the board about any case by anyone other than a party of the case must go through the comment form. Communications by parties to a case should go through Jackie Rouse, the board liaison officer. No one should contact any member of the board about any case pending before the board. So we will begin the meeting with the call of the roll, and I'll ask Ms. Consoli to do that for us.
Mr. Chair, can I just let you know one thing? After our conversation earlier, I want to let you know, you're joined by Mr. Laplace as well.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
You're also joined by Mr. Laplace.
Oh, wonderful. Welcome. All right, Ms. Consoli.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Dr. Chen,
Present.
Mr. Walsh,
Yes.
Mr. Zazali.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have 4 present.
Wonderful. Thank you. Have members of the board had a chance to review the agenda? Are there any comments or corrections?
No comments. Motion to approve agenda as submitted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Unanimously approve the agenda. The first item on our agenda tonight is the approval of the minutes for July 15th, 2022. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I move the minutes of the June 15th meeting be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now we'll get on with the business part of the meeting. First, we have an application for an extension in special exception application 2021-003 relating to the Rasa Juice Shop at 82nd Maryland Avenue. The special exception that we granted will expire on July 15th. Progress in getting the place up and open has been delayed because of issues related to the pandemic, of course, like so many of these cases. This is the first request for a 6-month extension. So applicants expect to be up and running by late summer. Does the staff of the city have a recommendation for approval?
We recommend approval of the extension, and the applicant, Lisa Consiglio Ryan, is present if you have any questions.
All right. Are there any questions for the applicant or the city?
I do not have any questions. Yeah.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve the extension?
I move the extension for special exception, the extension request for SC 2021-003 for 82 Maryland Avenue be approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, the extension's unanimously approved. Next, we'll resume consideration of the application for a special exception 2021-008, which we first heard on June 7th. This relates to a proposed fast food restaurant at Georgetown Plaza. I think it was a Subway that was there before. Do we have any additional comments from the public, Jackie?
We have not received any additional comments from the public. I did forward to the board a communication that we received from the applicant's attorney, Phil
Yeah,
Dales.
yeah, we'll get to that.
I'm just,
Is the staff satisfied that there's been adequate or substantial compliance with the notice and posting requirements now?
well, I think, the sign was relocated to be visible from the street. And we have not received any, we didn't receive any comments since the last hearing. So yes, I feel pretty satisfied.
And I'm satisfied too. I think I indicated before, if they continued the posting in the new location for the extended period of time, I thought that would be substantial compliance, and I do. All right, so we're ready for deliberations. I know I circulated a proposed substitute condition for condition number 5, and Mr. Dales suggested a slightly changed version of that. I thank Mr. Dales for that. I think it was a constructive change, and should we vote to approve the special exception, I would support substituting Mr. Dale's condition with 2 changes. As I had put in my draft, he referred to 8,000 square foot reservation for storage. That was a mistake on my part. I meant to say 7,000, which is the number that staff came up with and the only number that's actually supported by the record. And finally, in the very last sentence, I would strike the word minimum that refers to parking requirements. If we meet the parking requirements, that's fine. We don't need to modify that with minimum. So with that, I think we should move right on to our deliberations. Well, let me ask, does staff have any comments on the proposed revised condition 5?
I think that we had said that we wanted to have use permits for all the tenants
That's in there, Jackie. That's in there.
prior to the issuance of building permits.
Okay.
Use permits.
All right.
I think that was our original recommendation. We wanted them to get the use permits before we even issued the building
Okay.
permit.
I'd go along with that. So now let's, anything else, Jackie?
No, I think that was our original recommendation.
Good. All right, well, let's move on with deliberations. Anyone like to chime in where they think we are on this, whether they think the other requirements have been satisfied and so forth?
Mr. Chairman, just so I'm clear what conditions we're talking about, are we working on the list that you provided, or are we working on Mr. Dale's email?
There's a list of conditions attached to the staff recommendation.
Yes,
One of those was condition number 5.
yes,
I proposed a substitute to number 5.
yes.
Mr. Dale countered my proposal. So I'm suggesting that if we decide to approve the special exception, that we go with a condition 5 that follows Mr. Dale's change with 3 specific changes to what Mr. Dale has written.
Yes.
One is that 8,000 feet is changed to 7,000 square feet. In the last sentence, the word minimum be stricken, and where he refers to use permit, substitute building permit.
Hmm. Thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, please, I apologize for interrupting. When it's appropriate, I would like to just offer a few comments on your proposed change to Phil's condition.
Make it brief, please.
Sure,
Go ahead.
thank you. I'm Kelly Callahan. I'm here at Place of Phildale tonight on behalf of the applicant. The concept behind our suggestion to provide that approval be given prior to the issuance of a use permit as opposed to any permit for the applicant. We believe that allowing us up until the use permit approval stage to come into compliance with the current tenant's use permits at the property and to establish that the parking requirements have been met. We believe it provides from a practical standpoint, more time to come into compliance. And since this is a use-based condition, we believe it makes the most sense to provide that instead of limiting it to the issuance of any permit for the applicant that we
All
might.
right. Let me interrupt you right there. I agree that we could do that if we wanted to, but I think it was a mistake on your client's part not to require tenants to have use permits in the first place. So I'm not inclined to go along with a more lenient standard. Let's keep the pressure on them to get the job done. And for that reason, my recommendation would be that we go with the building permits. Anything else?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay. Christian, Michael?
I only wanted, I'm not going to argue your point, Mr. Gallant, Chair, because I agree with it, but I will also offer that the city is not in a position to execute occupancy inspections in a timely manner due to staffing issues and some other pandemic-related stuff. And I agree that the landlord should have never allowed it to lapse or get that sloppy. But just consider that when we go to motion, that they might be doing everything they can, and the city might not be able to get all of the occupancy inspections and remedies correct.
Well, if you want to offer a substitute, Mr. Cesali, I know we all respect your judgment. We'd certainly.
I will offer that prior to a building permit does benefit the tenant because it affords them the confidence that they will actually get to occupy when construction is correct and proper. The other way around, there is a level of risk that they will build the space out. They will have spent the money. They will be in a position to operate, and they will not be able to. So there are advantages and disadvantages to both the tenant and the city and the landlord in all scenarios. I'm not inclined to change it. I was just offering that as a consideration, that you want to spend the money and build it, and with the risk of potentially never occupying, that's a risk too under the building permit, under the occupancy permit path.
So may I just make one comment here?
Go ahead, Jackie.
So they have known for several months, probably going back in January was when we first.
Jackie, who is they, please?
The owners of the property and the
Okay.
attorney for the applicant have known since January that not all of the tenants had use permits. So they've already had 5 months to correct the situation, and that we still don't have, it is still not corrected, and not having a use permit makes the current uses that don't have use permits essentially illegally occupying the building without approval for either. It's not just the use issue, it's also the fire code requirements and building code requirements.
So let me ask you a scenario. If we make it, so what enforcement clause does the city have in this condition?
What do you mean enforcement?
For the tenants that currently don't have use permits?
We could pursue citing, citing all of the tenants that it is determined don't have use permits. You know, we have chosen since January to try and work cooperatively with the attorney to bring them into compliance, which is a general policy that we have when we are in these situations. But they've had a lot of time and we still don't have, and I really don't think there are that many tenants at this point who don't have use permits. It might just be one or two. There was some there were some numbers that did not work, you know, in terms of how much space different tenants occupy. But you know, this issue with the numbers not being right was first brought to their attention in January. So I really would like to get it resolved. I don't think it's you know, normally we would not have brought this project to hearing if all the tenants there were not legal. We agreed to do that. Our acting director, Mr. Malinoff, agreed in April to do that with the conditions that relate to restricting the vacant space to use as storage only in the affidavit from the property owner. And you know, at this point, that seemed to be a fair resolution. We
Okay,
offered them-
I'm fine.
Okay.
I would like to see the pressure on all three fronts. The city has to apply the appropriate pressure on behalf of the future tenant, and et cetera, et cetera. So
And
I
we-
will leave it at the permit stage.
Like issuance of the use permits when we receive them.
All right, Mr. Walsh, are you satisfied that the other requirements for the special exception have been met?
I am, Mr. Chairman, and I agree with the three changes that are proposed to Mr. Dales' language.
Okay,
And just one slight change on the record, it was a Jerry's, not a Subway, just who cares?
oh, sorry,
Yep,
but that's my bias.
yep.
All right, do we have a motion to approve this with a substitute condition in number 5 that tracks Mr. Dale's proposal with 3 changes, changing 8,000 feet to 7,000 square feet, changing use permit to building permit, and striking the word minimum from the last sentence. Do we have such a motion?
Yep, go ahead.
I move that SC 2021-008 special exception be approved with the new proposed condition number 5 that has been submitted by council for the applicant with modifications to change the figure 8,000 to 7,000 square feet, that in the second paragraph, first sentence, that the term use should be changed to building permits. And in the last paragraph, final sentence, that the word minimum be stricken.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks to everyone. Thanks, council, for the applicant for the constructive suggestions. We appreciate your cooperation. So the special exception will issue in due course when the opinion is drafted. And you'll be excused, and we'll move on to the next case.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Thank you, Chair. Rest of the members.
Thanks. Okay. The next case is variance application 2022-002. The applicant is looking for a variance from the front and side yard setbacks for addition of a one-story covered front porch at 20 Cheston Avenue. Is this Cynthia's case?
Yes, sir.
All right, would you like to introduce it for us?
Sure. This case, as you stated, VAR 2022-002, is a variance case for a reduction of the required front yard setback from 20.5 feet to approximately 18.33 feet, and a reduction to the side yard setback of 8 feet to 6.5 feet for a proposed covered front porch. This is a property that was built, the house was built about 1944. Something that I think is important to know is that it's a substandard lot. The lot itself does not meet the required lot width for the R1 zoning district, nor the total size of the required lots for the R1. So it is a substandard lot. And I will leave it to the applicant to make their case. Oh, I will state one more thing. I will state that there's been no public comments received. Property was posted, mailing notice was sent out as required, and we haven't received any public notice to date.
All right, who would like to speak for the applicant?
Jay Schwartz, architect, and James Hodge is with us as well.
All right, let me ask Mr. Hodge, well, both of you, you need to take an oath. Do you declare under penalty of perjury that the evidence you will give tonight in this matter is true to the best of your knowledge? I need an affirmative affirmation from both of you, each of you.
Yes, I do.
And Mr.
Hodge.
Hodgson. Is he with us?
Jim Hodge, you on?
Hodge?
He is here. It seems everything's working.
This is speaker.
I'm thinking he's having issues with his microphone.
Yeah, this is Jim Hodge. I'm fading in and out. I apologize.
Did you hear the oath I asked you to affirm?
If you could repeat it, sir.
Right. Do you declare under penalty of perjury that the evidence you'll give tonight in this matter is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir, I do.
Good. Okay, Mr. Hodge, Mr. Schwartz, or whoever would like to tell us about this, please keep in mind that we have read the staff report and all the attachments. We've thoroughly looked at your drawings. So we would urge you, in the interests of our time and the time of the city invested in this, to just tell us about the things that you really need to emphasize or that may not be covered in the documents we've seen.
Okay, so this is Jim Hodge. I'll briefly try to explain why we want to do this. If you've looked at the drawings, you will realize the structure is a very modest house on a wonderful location. In that location, the great benefit is being able to go outside, look at the water, talk to the neighbors. Notice all our neighbors have porches. And so we thought for our own enjoyment, we would like to add a small porch. Now, I realize it's a small lot and hence the need for a variance, but I think it would be in keeping of our best interest and also of the neighborhood to allow it. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Gallagher, we have not seen the staff report, but since I'm assuming it's a reasonable review of our application, we can answer any questions if you have any questions.
Well, Cynthia, have they had a chance to review the conditions that have attached to your staff report? Your recommendation?
Mr. Chair, there are only two. Follow the plans and get a permit.
All right, but
Yes, that's the only two. There's usually a condition where I state that the plans under, when you apply for a permit, have to be substantially in accordance with these plans, and that, of course, that you need permits.
All right. I think it'd be generally a good practice if we can do it, that the applicant at least see the conditions before a hearing, but.
I agree. I thought I said the staff.
I may have missed it. We apologize. I may have missed it.
All right.
We agree to the conditions.
And have there been any public comments?
No, sir, there haven't been any public comments. And as you know from our staff report, and so that the applicant knows, we are recommending that it be approved with those two conditions.
All right, questions from the board? Dr. Chen?
Seems very straightforward, Chairman.
All right. Mr. Zazali, Mr. Walsh.
I have just my standard question regarding G. We get these variance requests pretty regularly based on Annapolis's legacy lot sizes. Do you, under oath, do you reaffirm that the purpose, the porch that the variance that you need is the minimum you need, that you haven't asked for any more porch, deck, extension, room, setbacks, et cetera, that you need than you would need otherwise to build this requirement?
I believe it is the minimum. We've kept it the minimum depth to put chairs and just have enough room to pass by. So yes, I'd say it is a minimum.
Okay, thank you.
I'd have a question for staff and for the applicant. Let me start with staff. These hearings continue to be an educational process for me. We routinely approve setback variances to rebuild on the existing footprint. We've also approved, with a staff recommendation, variances where there'll be an addition where one wall of the addition is an extension of an existing non-conforming setback. And we had an explanation as to why that was the case, and we accepted that. This is the first case I recall where we are asked to approve a variance that will change two setbacks for an addition. So we're clearly moving into new space that wasn't covered before. What's the thinking there?
Okay, so let me point out one thing. The side yard setback that they're asking for is 6.5 feet, but the existing side yard is already 4 feet. So it's not going as far as the existing structure.
I see.
So that's less. Now the front, they are coming out further on the front. The existing front yard setback is 21 feet, and they're going to 18 feet for the porch to build that front line.
And suppose they wanted to get wider, what would our recommendation be?
Well, we would have to look at the application
All
for
right.
that.
All right. Let me ask,
But Cynthia, the 6'6", if it was only the 6'6" side, it would have been an administrative approval process?
No, actually, as a matter of fact, this case was originally submitted as an administrative adjustment because both of these requests are under 20%. But in the R1 district, there's a code section that says you cannot do an administrative adjustment in the R1 if the property is substandard. So we had to bring it as a variance. So the lot's smaller than, the lot's 4,000 square feet, required 7,000 square feet. So they're 3,000 square feet less than what's required. And as far as the width of the lot is 40 feet wide at its widest at the front, and then even narrows down to 30 feet in the back. So it is a substantially smaller lot than what would be what these setbacks in the R1 district are set for. So you're working with a smaller lot, yet applying the same setbacks for a larger lot.
Bob, in my history here, I've seen 4-sided setback requests.
wow. Well, you've seen it all, dude.
I do have a question. Is the removal of the 205 square feet of paving, is that a requirement due to the impervious surface?
I believe so, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good
Okay. Is that just blacktop or concrete, or what is that currently?
It's currently, if I may, paving in the back. It's a block type surface.
Okay.
It's a ground paving.
And it doesn't say what's going back unless I missed it. What, just lawn or
Yeah,
grass? or-
it'll have to be planted.
Okay.
But it does say that with the addition, the reduction in covered area is nominal.
Yeah, they're given square foot for square foot back.
Yeah, let me just ask Mr. Hodge or Mr. Schwartz. You understand that in properties this close to the water, especially, impervious surface is a big problem for the city meeting our water quality standards. Have you given any consideration to converting some of the existing impermeable surface to permeable?
No, sir, honestly, not as yet, no.
I'd certainly encourage you to do that. I don't think we can require it, but I think if you care about the city as much as the rest of
Bob, the plans do have 5 locations identified where they're removing paving. 5
Right.
separate
I
locations.
know, but the net reduction is nominal.
Yeah, they should, right. They're not improving. They're just no harming.
And there are other areas that could
Yep.
be considered for
Mhm.
pervious. So I just ask you to consider that.
Yes,
All
sir.
right. Anything else we need to take up on this application before we continue to July 20th? All right, then, we'll continue the hearing till July 20th. The public record is open for public comments. Unless there's some special reason to reopen it, we'll close the record to evidence from the applicants and the city. We'll deliberate on July 20th and hopefully have a decision for the applicants at that time. And thank you very much
Thank you.
for preparation, participation. And we'll excuse you and move on to the next case.
Thanks so much.
You have another case?
Yeah. I think Kevin's been hanging around for this one. We'll next take up variance application 2022-003, where the applicant is looking for a reduction in the rear yard setback for the addition of a screen porch at the rear of the house at 408 First Street. Am I right? Is this Kevin's?
This is Kevin Scott.
All right.
Good evening.
Mr. Scott, would you like to introduce the case for the city?
Certainly. My name is Kevin Scott. I'm Senior Planner for Planning and Zoning. This is application by Debbie and Paul Rankin for 408 First Street for a 13-foot reduction to the 30-foot rear yard setback requirement for a 14 by 16 screen porch addition to the existing house. The project is also in the R2 and C district, which requires site design plan review, and we are concurrently reviewing that application, RNC 2022-011, which will be conditioned that they obtain that site design approval before they get permits. The lot in particular is very shallow in depth at 85 feet. Normally an R2 lot would be much longer. The ones specifically in the immediate vicinity are anywhere from 125 to over 200 feet deep. But because of the orientation near the corner with the L-shaped lot, they're very shallow in depth. And the existing house is already right at the 30-foot mark. So to build the screen porch, they need the relief to the setback. They're planning on putting the addition on top of the existing patio. There will be a 61 square foot reduction in the coverage, as the site's already grandfathered for more than the 50%. So this will not increase the coverage. The Eastport Civic Association's Architectural and Zoning Committee reviewed the plans as part of the site design review, had no objections to the design or to the variance request. And we concur with all of the applicants' responses to the site design standards. It's been properly posted, notified. There's been no other public comments received, and we're recommending that they follow the plans they submitted, obtain the site design approval, and get building permits before they commence construction.
Right, thank you, Kevin. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on behalf of the applicant?
I think one thing I would like to add is we are trying to also.
Please identify yourself.
Rick McCollum with Spire Architecture.
All right.
Just wanted to add that
Before you add anything, I need to ask you to take what we euphemistically refer to as an oath. Do you declare under penalty of perjury that the evidence you will give tonight in this matter is true to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right, thank you. You may go ahead.
To the comment of building on the existing patio, we do want to remove a portion of it as well so that we can remain the end of construction. We're proposing to be under the existing coverage by 61 square feet than what's currently there now. So
that's a step in the right direction. Thanks. All right, questions from the board?
No.
So this addition will comply with the side yard setbacks?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Good. Well, if there are no other questions, then we will also continue this hearing until July 20th, where we will consider any new public comments, but we'll consider the record closed for evidence from the applicants in the city unless there's extraordinary reasons to reopen it. For the applicant, we hope to have a decision for you on the 20th.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, we're trying to wrap this up for Michael, who's got to jump off at 8, and it looks like we're going to make it with time to spare. Our next meeting is on July 20th. Is there any other business to bring before the board tonight before we adjourn?
I just have one question on what relating to the front porch is in general. Cynthia, how many front porch additions cover, just to add a cover over an existing, do you think the city processes a year?
I can't give you a number off the top of my head. A lot.
A lot, and we don't see but 10% of them, right?
You probably don't see most of them because even if they don't meet the setbacks, then they probably are done under an administrative adjustment, which allows us to administratively review and approve reductions of setbacks up to 20%. So I would say the majority of any that don't meet setbacks would probably fall under an administrative.
And I'm certainly no, anti-regulator. But in my 13 years, I don't know that we've ever denied an appropriate front yard porch covered, right? Covering the porch, existing or slightly modifying. It would seem that there would be, except for the condition, under what conditions do we see it? If it's in the R1 only?
No, if they were asking for a setback greater than 20%, then it would have to have a variance.
Okay.
And it would have to come to the Board of Appeals. But if it's a request of a reduction to the setback that's 20% or less, then in most districts, then we can do it as an administrative adjustment. Okay. And then they meet a different set of criteria than the variance criteria. There's only 4 criteria, and really there's only 2 that usually really apply to reviewing it anyway. So the standards are a little looser, and generally, I would say most administrative adjustments get, approved unless there's some circumstances that, really make it something that would be undesirable, or there's a number of the public that object to it, that type of thing.
Right. Because generally, this board has encouraged covered front porches for the quality of the benefit that it adds to the streetscape and the neighborhood. I mean, I think as opposed to many other variances where it's simply gross square footage requests or adds, I think a front porch always tends to have a positive, always is a net positive on a streetscape. But so that's just my two.
An opportunity for the homeowner to interact with anybody walking by or whatever.
Yeah,
the neighborhood.
Yeah. Okay, that's just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Okay.
Not about this case specifically, for the record. No deliberation. Just.
Okay. Well, before we have a motion to adjourn, I'd just like to thank Cynthia for the great work she's done, the help she's been to the board. Congratulate her on her retirement. We'll be sad to see her go. It would be a great challenge for the new director, Mr. Laplace, to see if he could talk you into staying on for another couple of years to help him get settled in. And thank you to Mr. Laplace for joining us tonight. We're always happy to have you and anyone from your staff join us in our meetings.
I will let you know there is a happy hour planned at the West End Grill on Thursday, the 28th from 5:30 to 7:30. So if you'd like to join us, please do.
What date is that?
Thursday, July 28th.
You wouldn't consider moving it to Bozeman, Montana, would you? Because that's where I'll be.
Yeah.
I would consider that. I don't know if anybody else would, but I would.
If I could get a ferry from Maine, I would do it, but I'm not flying.
Chair, I'd like to thank you for trying to talk her out of retirement. We've been trying to do that, but haven't
No.
been successful.
Well,
That's a hard argument to,
thank you.
hard debate to win once somebody set their teeth on retirement.
Yes, it is.
All right, do we have a
For the
final
kind
motion?
word.
Motion to go on the record thanking Cynthia officially for all her years of service and motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
There a
Two
second?
motions.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.